in which case we can move on to the performance section of the report. We're already in the performance section of the report of the agenda, and we can now go to the corporate performance suite of papers. Trevor, are you going to navigate us through those as you normally do?
I will. I'll give you first, Chair, the headlines from the performance and finance report to supplement the scorecards that you have before you. Overall, call volumes were again lower than planned. Access to service and patient experience remained good for our services. Particular performance issues in the month. Clinical assessment times for what we refer to as our priority 2 and 3 calls, where we failed the target, and for the first time this year, urgent and emergency referral levels, where we were marginally above the targeted level of performance. That is a marginal result, and we do understand that there are issues there because of the volumes of calls that we're receiving, and also the calls that are being taken now through the Pathways field trial. So we're investigating that further and raising that with the Strategic Health Authority, because we believe that's had a proportionate effect on that target. In terms of the overall financial performance, we now have a year-to-date surplus of £1.8 million. We've undertaken our mid-year review. That has included testing and challenging the savings forecasts as referred to at the last board meeting, where additional assurance was sought. Those have been taken through our Executive Management Board and covered within our performance review meetings. And the overall forecast for the financial position is that we remain in a position to achieve a planned surplus for the year, as you'll see from the finance report. In terms of capital, we recognise that there is slippage within the programme, and that was discussed at length last week at our capital planning group. That will be subject to a separate report to our executive management team, where we have particular schemes identified that are unlikely to proceed this year. So we will be discussing those in detail at our next executive board meeting, as well as the capital resources associated with those schemes. We will bring that back and report back to the board next month on that position. And finally, just to point out that there were some metrics that were outstanding within the balanced scorecard. We will make sure they are separated, circulated under separate cover after the meeting.
Right.
Stephen.
The question I have really is about, I think, the 5th bullet point on the report 7.1, which talks about deterioration of performance, time in patients and waiting for call times. If I understood this right, presumably the fact there's less volumes means that people are idle for longer. And I just wondered, what was the process by which you sort of flexed the number of hours available to what as expected?
Yes, please. Yeah.
Okay. So the way in which we flex the amount of capacity that's available is we have staff that are rostered on to work different shifts. So we have at the moment, and we talked about this at length at the last board meeting, more people available during the day and less in the evenings and weekends than would be the ideal situation. That's exacerbated because our peak hours on our peak days are under-established in terms of the capacity that's available. What we've done previously is we've filled that capacity by using overtime and excess hours, which in the current financial climate is not something that we're able to do. So what we're in the process of doing is changing the rosters so that there's a better match between when people are available and when our patients need us.
Okay.
And that's a long programme of which I'm happy to talk to you in more detail.
Yes, thank you, that's clear, thank you.
Oh, hello.
Can you say that all again?
No, I don't think so. Is that okay?
Yeah.
I'm sure you'll want to talk more outside the meeting, but that's fine, thank you. Peter?
Yeah, just one on finance.
Yes, please, yeah.
I'm grateful for the reassurance, and that's very helpful on the efficiency savings. My concern mainly is around the way the budget, as it rolls into next year and beyond, is sustainable in a true recurrent sense, because we are tending to live on a bit of borrowed time, I believe, and particularly on the staffing side, in having the budgets meeting of the demands that are being set, which you just sort of talked about a bit, and there are mechanisms for flexing that. But it's still a bit out of sync in the way I understand the way the budget is rolling forward. And it's about next year and beyond that I'm keen to get a picture.
I think Trevor's keen to help you get that picture.
Yeah, happy to just raise a couple of points. Whilst there has been a degree of slippage within some of our savings schemes, that will be made good, and we will see the impact of that on a full year effect basis next year. So there are further planned savings that will be coming through to catch those up. I think equally what I've seen very encouraging is our reduced reliance on agency and temporary staff usage on frontline staffing, and tracking through with Renette last week at the performance review meeting, the noticeable reduction in frontline staffing expenditure levels since the start of the year. I think gives us extra assurance in terms of the control that we're seeing on our budgets and financial management.
I think Nick wanted to come in, then Renette, then Tim Walton.
I just wanted to build on Trevor's point.
Yes,
actually.
lovely.
So Nick,
You can come in. You can come in now.
We're going to analyse in terms of the amount that's being expended on a month-by-month basis, particularly on frontline staffing, because it's the lion's share of the budget. But as an indication, we're spending about £1 million to £1.2 million less per month since April. So. So it has come down substantially.
That's very helpful to know. Yeah, thank you.
Nick, you were coming in there.
I was going to say that what we've done this year is we've used the necessity to do a mid-year financial adjustment to drive through even more overhead cost reductions, and the vast majority of those are recurrent cost reductions. So we've used a problem and turned it into as it were, into an advantage. I think the big unknown for next year is what will the effect of transition towards 111, what will the pace of that be, what does that mean in terms of call volumes, and I think a critical part of the negotiation that we will have to have with East of England is whilst NHS Direct has been regarded as a source of contingency for small-scale 111 pilots because the volumes of calls is small in relation to our total capacity. That won't be the case as 111 is rolled out in larger scale. And to what extent will the SHA want to purchase our capacity as opposed to pay us by the call? And I think that will be a critical issue for next year in sorting out next year's financial projection.
Because there could be double running on NHS Direct and 111, so which I would expect there would be.
Yes.
Okay, you've got that in mind. Thank you. That's very helpful. Thank you.
Tim, and then I'd like to make a comment.
Thank you. Just to respond to Peter, if there's double running, that will put our unit costs up. Considering we've seen lower call volumes consistently, and is this a trend that's going to continue? Has it stabilised? Is it just down to us trying to drag things onto the web? Is it the fact that we've had some funny press, 6 weeks ago or whenever it was? I'm really saying, have we really got our, and yet you've got the demographics where there's more young people and more older people. So you would have thought the sort of population that's going to use our service is going to increase. So I'm not sure that we've really got our brains around as a board why that's happening. And we've seen these reports every month saying lower call volumes. Can we have a better, an informed explanation of what we think is going wrong in the market, please? But maybe not now.
I think yes. I wouldn't want to accept necessarily the premise that there's something going wrong in the market. I do think it would be helpful. I think we've nibbled at this from time to time. The sort of questions that I have asked are about what is it that we're doing to make sure that in an environment where we're not advertising, everybody's aware of us being here. So I think that would be worth having a proper agenda, timetable discussion on maybe next time. And I don't think, Tim, we're suggesting that a huge amount of analysis is required, but I think we just want to have a conversation about it so that the board has a shared understanding of, as you say, what the drivers are, what's going to happen in the future, and what we can do about what we are doing about it and what we can do about it.
Yeah.
Louisa.
No, I just raised that point that I just wanted to know whether there was a drop after the adverse publicity.
Renette, I don't know if you can answer that.
Not noticeably, not that would be scientifically proven to be different. There was a little drop and it came back up again.
I think my recollection is historically, whenever we're mentioned, volumes go up. So the fact that we were mentioned as possibly not being there, perhaps, there was an equal and opposite effect. So it didn't go up, but it didn't go down.
Yeah.
Okay. My question was financial, so I suppose it's to Trevor. So my sort of a simplistic reading of this year's situation, Trevor, is that we will break even comfortably because we've allocated our contingency. Is that basically what it boils down to?
I might not use the word comfortably. Okay. I would certainly say we've had to manage the position in year. I think it's probably also fair to say the level of change programme that we set ourselves this year, whilst there is a degree of slippage on it, it's relatively small in the scale of the change that we've tried to take the organisation through.
Okay.
But what we have done is identify at an early stage where there have been degrees of slippage and shortfall, and we've taken remedial measures to manage those positions. But equally, it is reliant on us all managing our positions to our control totals this year in order to secure that target of hopefully performing better than our original budgeted surplus.
Okay, fine. All right. Anything else on the organisation's performance and finance before we move to the specific update reports, which we might take by exception, actually? So thinking about the overall organisational financial position, forecast and performance, are there any other questions?